get started straight away. The first thing I have is that it's not working. All right, so the first thing that came to mind for me when Jackie spoke to me was essentially, why would we be teaching writers to make videos? And essentially, it's because we want to help you lead people to your articles, and in doing so, we hope, secure more work for you. So just a little bit of background on that. The way the things are playing out at the moment, people are becoming way too lazy to read. It's just the way the world is. They'd far rather watch a video. And the vast bulk of communication now is done digitally. So there's some scary numbers around this stuff. Online videos are expected to make up more than 82% of all consumer internet traffic by 2022, which is just around the corner. And as I see it, with the majority of you being writers or related closely to the whole process of writing, this isn't ideal if you're a writer and you make your living out of writing. So unless that is, we harness the power of video to drive people to your articles. And that's what we want to do. We want to help you do that process so that we can get your work out there where people are seeing it and make sure that continues in the future. So we want to harness the power of video to drive people to your articles. And we're going to do that by enabling you to create video as a value add. Okay, so one of the things, so I'm just going to change something here with how this is displaying. That's probably better. One of the things that is very much a trend now is that your publishers in general will be needing video. It's how they get seen. So 81% of businesses now use video. Am I looking down too much? Yeah. Sorry, I just know how disconcerting it is when people do that. 81% of businesses use video as a marketing tool, and that's increased from 63% in just the last year. And mobile video consumption has typically rises 100% every single year. Google ranks video, any video-based content, higher than any other type, and that's something we're seeing consistently. So, you know, the long and the short of it is that it's a mega trend. It's unlikely to change, and your publishers will increasingly want video for promotional purposes. So that's what we're going to teach you, is video as a value add. So we want to, by the end of today, I'm hoping I've given you a nice solution that means that you could, if you feel so inclined, support each and every article that you write with a video without making it be cumbersome, time consuming, all those things that you're probably rolling your eyes and thinking, why the hell do I want to become a videographer? I'm a writer. So in doing this, if you're on contract, you're going to keep your boss happy. If you're a freelancer, it's a way that you can offer a more comprehensive service than your competitors. And then by offering video as a value add, as an add-on, you're definitely making the most of your time when you're out there on site. So we're going to give you a easy, cost-effective and totally doable way to do that. We're going to show you how to make professional-looking video that's suitable for any platform. And you can do it in just 30 minutes, right? So we've worked this process so that it will work and take about 15 minutes on site and about 15 minutes in the office. And the total cost of doing that, if you use our system, is $99 US per video. But you can totally do the editing section of it yourself as well. And I'm going to talk you through both options, in which case there's no cost. So, I mean, this is me throwing numbers around, go, okay, well, if I can do that, and then if I can charge, I don't know, $250 a video, you're immediately sticking another $100 in your pocket. And you're doing it with, your publisher's going to love it because you've given them something that they can use to drive traffic to their site. So that's just me throwing some ideas around. Anyway, a little bit of background as to why I'm here and why I was chosen to do this is, and I think these are both equally key, is that I bring experience in both marketing and video. So I've got a 30+ year background in marketing, and I'm with my partner Gary, I'm the owner and operator of 2 video-based businesses. So as a marketer, I know what works from a marketing perspective. As a video professional, I know how to make it. So we have a video production company called Blue Chilli, which is a full service digital marketing agency. And for that, we'd be charging anywhere between $2,000 and $25,000 a video. Chilli Bites is our affordable online video option, and that's the main reason I'm here. So Chilli Bites was something that we created because we have a lot of clients who just say, with this whole, as I say, influx and upswing in video, they're saying, I need video, but there's no way I can afford that sort of money. Just doesn't make any sense. So we created an online video service that enables people to use their own smartphone footage, and just load it via our app and carry on from there. So that's the background. Anyway, so what we're going to learn today, jumping straight into the good stuff, we're going to tell you what to make, the kind of video that works best for social media. And we've got an example of how that might look, how to shoot it, some simple technical do's and don'ts to get the best footage from your smartphone, and some options from editing, as I say, either using our Chilli Bite app or tips if you're going to be doing it yourself. So your ideal promotional video for social media is really short, and this is something that's quite important to learn. You're only looking at between 15 and 60 seconds in duration. The way people use social media is like this, you know, and you're coming up on someone's Facebook feed, you need to interrupt them. They don't have a particularly long attention span. So 15 to 60 tends to be about what's recommended for social media. And it's really important to get something that grabs attention in the first 5 to 10 seconds. You need to, as I say, stop that flow. When they're scrolling through, looking for stuff, you want something that makes them go, oh, wow, totally want to look at that. The video style we're going to show you today, we're using a voiceover hook to help with that. This is a key thing to get your head around if you're new to making video, is you need to leave the viewer wanting more. So the objective, what we're trying to do here, is we want them to read your article. We don't want them to view the video instead of the article. So it needs to be something that just gives them a taster, gives them a test, and gives them a taste of what they can see, and gives them somewhere to go afterwards. We want it to be reasonably fast-paced to retain interest, and we need it to have a strong call to action at the end, you know, what we want the viewer to do next. Now this is an example of one that was made by Cheryl, who's a rural journalist. I don't know if any of you know Cheryl. So I briefed her. She'd done some videos before, and she's done some great work. What she'd done previously was a little bit more complex, and she'd made videos that potentially were actually a little bit too long, and that they had a lot in them, and they weren't necessarily perfect for the social media genre. So I briefed her in using this approach, and she went out and she shot this. So this is the kind of style of thing we're talking about.
How do you look after the cows who are calving down some of the most valuable calves in New Zealand, and how do you rear those calves well? Today I'm visiting Bellevue Enterprises, a Waikato dairy farm with a unique focus. The company offers farmers and breeding companies surrogate mothers for embryo transfer work, and is responsible for calving and rearing some of these most valuable calves in the country.
Okay, so that's the style we're talking about. As you can see, it's short, it's punchy, it's professional looking, and it would be totally at home on any form of social media or for any publisher. So how did we make that? All right, this is the 3 steps that you will go through if you're going to make that video. The first one is that you're going to go out and you're going to shoot around 15 short video clips with your phone. Now that sounds really simple, and it is, and that part's key. If there's one important thing I'm teaching you today, let that be it. Don't go out there thinking, I need to think like a video person, I need to walk around, I need to do complicated interviews. Forget all of that, you'll just get overwhelmed. This is the key to actually nailing it and making it achievable. So you think short clips, and each clip is only around between 6 and 10 seconds. And I'm going to talk you through some more detail on all of these things. I just wanted to overview the 3 steps. So that's your first one. While you're out there on farm, or wherever you are on site when you're doing your interview, as part of that, you can easily be banking these little clips as you go. When you get back and you write your article and you've got a good idea of what the article is going to be about, you write a 15 to 20 second hook and you record that as an audio file again on your phone. So this is the little audio file that's going to become the voiceover on the video. So on the one that Cheryl did, that's how she grabbed people's attention and gave them a quick overview of what was going on. So that's the key. You're writing your little hook and you're recording it just as an audio file. And then basically all you're doing is you're loading it all to whatever editing platform you're using. If you're using Chilli Bytes, you just upload it all on the app, and I'll show you a bit later on how to do that. Or if you're doing it on any kind of self-editing, same thing, you would just be loading the 15 video clips, the audio file, and any little text bits and pieces you'll have as your title, your call to action. You're uploading it, and then you're going to walk through the editing stages. Okay, so here's the first tips and tricks for when you're actually out there doing your shooting. And these are things, even if you decide that you're not necessarily going to use this for journalism purposes or whatever else, this stuff's useful to have anyway, even if you're just taking footage of your son's footy game. So set your phone to 1080. Rather than try and explain how to do that, because the instructions will be different for every single phone, just Google it if you get stuck. Or the good old fallback, ask a teenager. And all of these things are on our website as well. So if you, rather than having to write everything down, you can just go there and get the list of instructions anyway, so that's fine. But so yeah, set your phone to 1080. And then this is like an important one. Before you start, decide whether your video is going to be landscape or portrait, horizontal or vertical. You can shoot in either, and I've given you two examples there of what the completed video would look like on screen. They're both totally acceptable. The trick is don't shoot both. And I know that sounds really stupid, but it's what we tend to do. We're so used to shooting photos rather than video. You walk around and you go just instinctively, oh, now that one would be nicer that way. This one's a close-up, I'll shoot it like that. You go to edit and you end up with something that looks like this. Because you've started out with something that was a landscape, something that was a portrait, and so it ends up getting snipped and you lose half your footage. Whereas if you go, the only other thing to think about when you're choosing whether you're going to be portrait or landscape is you've got a lot more scope with landscape for text. You can write a lot more across screen. So if you've got a reasonably complicated title or call to action, you've got a lot more scope in landscape. And just generally, I would recommend shooting in landscape if you're new to it. It's just easier to make things feel a bit more continuous. Okay. Here's the other bit that I was talking about, just a little more detail on that. Shoot the short clips. All right, so they're 10 to 15 clips, they're 6 to 10 seconds each. And the reason for that is long clips are much more challenging to shoot, but they're also, when you come to review them and edit them, they're a pain. They're really cumbersome. You know, you spend your whole time scrolling back and forwards going, which bit do I want? Just stick with short and you'll find it a lot easier. And to be honest, you're far less likely to get overwhelmed and give up if you just think of it in a series of short clips. Now here's another one. This is a really important thing to remember, is have the light source behind you. So this is particularly, this is good skills for photography as well. So light source, typically the sun, have it behind you. So you can see here, so this is two screen grabs I did took from a video that Cheryl made for us. You can see here that he's got quite a dark face. We're looking more at sheep. We can see him, but he's got a dark face. That's because the sun, looking at here, you can see where the light source is. The sun's coming from somewhere over here. Whereas with this one, where they're doing a nice little selfie, the sun's obviously in front of them, and we've got nice clear visuals of their face. So that's an important one. When you're standing, particularly out in a paddock or something, look around, where's the sun, and position yourself accordingly. So I mean, up here, you know, she's done the right thing in that she said, let's put him in front of something that's interesting and relevant. So I'll stand him in front of a paddock of sheep. If she had she probably could have just walked him around a little bit further. So he was positioned more over here and shot from over there. You don't have to have the sun directly behind you, but just within reason. But try not to shoot directly into it. And same thing, if you're in a house and you don't even position someone in front of the window, because when you do, the camera will focus on all the light stuff and they'll just look like a silhouette. So yeah, don't shoot towards a window if you're indoors. Okay, now this is a real good little rookie hack. Stabilize using your elbows. So when you're walking around shooting video, we tend to do this. Well, I'll walk over here and I'll just take that, and you can see what my phone's doing. So you do this. You stick your elbows into your side and you use them like a gimbal. And then when you're doing your shoot, you literally find a position and you're just going on 1, 2, 3, 4, really slow and quite stable. So that's a particularly helpful little trick. Elbows as your stabilizer, and that will help reduce the handshake and minimize any blurring. Here's another one. Avoid walking while you're shooting. We tend to wander around the farm thinking, well, I'll just get some nice footage from here and then I'll go over into the barn. It's really hard to do that without doing this. You know, your body moves naturally, so you're going to end up with lots of rough footage. Again, think in a series of shots. So instead of going, oh, I need to get something in this area and in this area, I'll shoot here and then I'll walk through. Find one posse, shoot that one, move to the next one, repeat the process. So when I say pan side to side, so that's this movement. You can pan side to side, you can pan up and down. It just adds a little bit of interest. So if you do have to walk, and sometimes you will just want to capture that, you know, there might be a sensation of walking into a house or something that you actually just do want to capture it. You do the duck walk. So this is where I look really stupid demonstrating. So you're basically walking along like this, keep your knees bent, and you keep them bent. So you're just walking like a duck. The fact that you're keeping your knees bent helps to minimize that movement. And if you're going to do lots of videos, it's worth getting a smartphone gimbal. They're not expensive. It's just a little device that your phone clips onto, and then it will automatically stabilize everything. That gives you a lot more scope to just be a bit more relaxed about how you're shooting. So pan slowly. So that's the other point I was just talking about. Panning adds interest if your subject is static. So for example, if you're looking at a paddock of sheep and they're not doing much, your video is going to be a bit boring if you're just looking at the sheep. If you're panning, it just feels a little bit more interesting and it gives you scope to get a wider area. The thing to remember though is if the subject has a lot of movement, so for example, you're standing next to a race and there's a whole lot of animals running towards you, there's enough action anyway. You know, you're best just to stand still for that and let the action, the movement of the subject carry that for you. So same thing if you're filming sports or anything like that, you probably don't want to be moving too much. Whereas if you're shooting something really static, like if you were doing real estate, you definitely need to be moving. All right, and pan slowly. We tend to go really fast and we see a lot of footage that does this and it's really quick. We can, if you go slow, an editor or an editing program can speed up a pan. It's really hard to slow it down because you lose a lot of quality. So you're better to really overdo it. And again, almost count 1, 2, 3 as you're doing it. And as I say, footage can be sped up, but it's much harder to slow it down. Okay, another good trick is mixing up your shots. So try and shoot from a range of different angles to add interest. And the other thing you can do is get a mix of close-ups and longer distance, and that just gives you a little bit more scope when you're doing your editing. So if you've got wide angle stuff of your sheep in your paddock, it's also nice to get some close-up of little fluffy lambs, or just things that mix it up so visually when you see it, it comes together better and it just looks a bit more interesting. This sounds bad, but it's a real common error. We see it a lot, and it's something we have to be really careful with when we're working professionally as well. If you're working with a photographer, make sure you don't get in each other's frame. So they'll be out wandering around taking photos, and you end up with them in your video. So just make sure you keep that in mind. And this is something else to think about as well. If you typically work with a photographer, get them to do your video. Their cameras will do video. They're already skilled in framing, light, picking good shots, all that stuff. So if there's someone you work with a lot, get them to shoot the video. And then it's one less thing for you to worry about. So interviews, this is not relevant to the video style that I was teaching you today with just that little simple voiceover audio. But it's something that you're likely to think about at some point, and it's quite an important skill. So I wanted to just include it in here for you. So consider alternatives to interviewing to camera. Typically what people do is you'll stand here and you've got your subject over there, and you're saying, all right, George, so tell us about your interest in farming. What led you to dairy? And they respond, you've got it on camera. Makes perfect sense, except that your audio quality will be poor. Smartphones do amazing footage. One thing that they're quite weak at is capturing good audio unless they're really close. So instead of always thinking of shooting to camera like that, you're better to actually just, when you're doing your interview, you probably do this anyway, you're probably recording a lot of it on your phone as an audio file just so that you've got it to refer to when you're writing. You can, if you record that with it quite close to the subject, you're going to end up with a good audio file anyway. And then it means that if you want to get a bit more complicated with your editing, you can use some of that audio file as the voice, or as what we call the voiceover on the video. And the other thing is it's often less daunting for the subject, you know, that you're not recording, they feel much more comfortable just talking. And the other thing to be very aware of, particularly if shooting outdoors, is avoid wind noise. You know, phones, again, it's one thing they're not particularly good at. You know, when you see professional videographers, they've got those big fluffy things that look like a dead cat on top of their camera. That's to break down that noise. So there's no way around that really with a camera, other than doing it, I mean, with a phone, other than doing it somewhere inside. So so you've now got your 15 clips. Once you get home, if you decide you want to do it using Chilli Bites, this is the process you work through. It's basically, it's a free app that you download to your phone. You upload your content, and I'll show you a very short little clip here that talks you through that in just a second. Once you're edited file, basically then our team will do all the work for you, and you'll get it back as an edited file that you can look at. If you're happy with it, you just approve it. We'll send you a link and you pay online. If you're not happy with it, you can make minor edits or request minor edits. And if you just go, actually, it really isn't right, it just doesn't feel right, no charge, no nothing, no questions, we'll just walk away. And the price for that is $99 a video. And as I say, if you're not happy, there's no charge. So this is just about,
now that we've got our 15,
about a 30-second video that just shows you how easy that process is to load. So you can
it's time to upload them to the Chilli Bite app. Open the app,
so quickly.
Click Make a Chilli Bite, then follow the easy steps. Add your title, details for the end frame, and preferred editing style.
Select your best video clips. Add a logo if you have one, then submit. Easy as.
Yeah, so that's literally it. So that's, as I say, if you go through that process that I talked about at the beginning, shoot your video clips when you're on farm, there's no additional time required, write your one little audio handle, record it as a voice file, and upload like that, and you'll get the completed video back within 48 hours. If you happen to be tech savvy, know what you're doing, or you have a teenager who is, you might want to do that part yourself, and you totally can. There's a huge variety of platforms and apps that are available. The key thing is, I thought about making some recommendations here, but when I had a good look at it, it is so vast in terms of the variety that you're really best just to choose the option that works best for you. Some of them are free, some have a monthly subscription, some are a monthly a one-off purchase. So have a look and see what works. And they vary massively in terms of scope and complexity. So most phones will have some form of editing. So for example, your iPhone will have iMovie, which is quite a good little app. And there's equivalents on all your Androids. If you want to get more complex, there's online options. And as I say, some of them are have a huge amount of scope. They're the sort of thing that are used by professionals in the field all the time. So as I say, there's new options appearing all the time. You're best to Google and see what works for you. But what I have done is pulled together here just some basic steps in case you are going to go down that route, so you get a bit of an idea of what's going to be involved. And to be fair, this is definitely the most complex part of the process. And it's something that you'll either go, yeah, that looks like quite fun, or actually, nah, it's just not me, which is why we created Chilli Bites in the first place. So you're going to start out by trimming your clips to get them to the right length. So even if you've shot 15 clips and they're only 10 seconds long, obviously when they're all added together, that's a lot more than the total length that we're looking for. So you trim them, you find the little bits that are the best, and you select the best order. Which isn't always chronological. So remember that whole idea of you want to grab attention at the beginning. So this is something that as journos you'll be good at. You know how to structure something so that you're grabbing people's attention. It doesn't have to be chronological. It's often more just about flow, or as I say, what's going to be the bit that's most visually appealing at the beginning. Choose your transition style. So that the transition is how one clip evolves into the next. And there's a whole range of speeds and styles that you can choose. Some will be quite subtle, like the one that we used earlier on, because we were looking for an editorial style, so we wanted it to feel sort of quite simple and professional. But you'll see, if you look at music videos or anything like that, they're really edgy and sharp and fast and dynamic. So just choose the sort of editing style, transition style that's going to work. And then you're going to overlay your voice file as an audio. So that's going to give you the, that how with Cheryl's video, we had the voice file and then we had the image files running alongside it. So you're going to overlay your voice file as an audio, and you're going to do your titles and your text. So again, when you're doing that, there'll be all sorts of pre-designed options that you can choose in terms of formats and where they sit on screen and all that kind of thing. Choose fonts or colors based on your branding or to complement the style and color palette of the video. And these are going to be needed for that opening title and the call to action at the end. I can always play that video again for you after we finish here if you want to just remind yourself of how it looks. And then music, same thing, just choose a track that reinforces the mood and objective of the video. And then one of the other sort of final things you'll be doing is you just need to balance the volume between voice and music so that your music's not too loud and drowning out the voice. If you're getting, depending on how involved you are and the quality of your footage and the level of your skill, There are other quality enhancements that you could be looking at. This is the kind of thing that we would be running for you at Chili Bites, or any kind of professional team would do this for you. Things like color grading. So often your footage is shot in different places, different areas, so the colors might feel quite different. So that we would be color grading them so that there's a little bit more consistency and it's not so jarring as they transition from one to another. There's techniques for removing video and audio noise. So as I mentioned, things like wind noise can be really jarring. There are ways to improve that. It's difficult to get rid of it entirely, but there are certainly ways to improve that. And there's footage stabilization and sharpening. There might be a little bit of blurring. Again, there's tools and techniques that can improve that. And you can also straighten video footage, which sounds crazy, but it's amazing how often you shoot like that without realizing. So your horizons look a bit odd. But, this is probably another level of complexity. If you're going to be doing your own editing, unless you're quite serious about it, this probably isn't the sort of thing you get into. But it does just add a little bit more of a professional touch to it. And then this is one thing to be very aware of. This is my last slide, I think, is just don't fall into the trap of using unlicensed music. This is a mega no-no. Lots of people grab stuff off YouTube and then wonder why they get themselves in trouble. Licensing rules can differ from personal and commercial use, so don't fall into that trap. Most online editing programs, so as I say, if you use iMovie or something on your phone, they will typically have a range of royalty-free musics. So if you use one of those, you'll be fine. There we go. And that was it. Sorry, that just all ended.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks very much, Kate. That was great. Very good for complete learners like myself, or maybe a little bit more aged challenge than your average person rushing around making videos. So I think that will be, it is a great way of adding value to a story. So have we got any questions from people out there?
Is there any limit on video formats?
What do you mean by format, Richard?
On some cameras you can get a different format, MP3 or others, which may be different from a cell phone.
So do you mean is there any limit in terms of what we can work with?
Yes.
No, we're fine with any mainstream. So if it's coming from a GoPro or a camera, as you say, if you're shooting with a good camera and you've got a video function on it, that'll be fine. Yeah, there are a range of different file types that come through. I mean, yeah, we're totally fine with them all.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Richard. Now, Sarah's asked, that was awesome, really helpful. Do we need to get the people we film to sign a release form? Yeah, that's a good question.
That's actually a very good question. I don't know what you would normally have covered off as part of your, or whether you have anything covered off as part of your journalistic process. If you are using photos, you've probably got that covered anyway. But if not, yeah, it would pay to just get their approval. How do you normally handle it with photography?
Well, we don't normally have a formal release form. Well, I'm just speaking for our publications. We don't get them to sign anything, but I guess we make it understood to them that we're able to use their print files. But it is a very good question, because we definitely need to cover it off, because using footage of their farm or themselves on social media is quite a different beast, isn't it, to being in a magazine? So that's a really good question.
Yeah.
And a good one for us to think about.
Yeah, I'd suggest you do, just to cover yourself, because as you say, now with social media, things can end up in totally different places where they feel out of context, and people, it's more likely to become an issue. So just give me a second.
It's not being sold for commercial use.
Yeah.
As long as you've got the quality buyers and people not ready to be sold commercially. So it's used for editorial.
Right.
But
Oh, okay.
It's a private farm.
Yeah.
Then you just need the authorization of the owner of the property rights.
Yeah.
But as long as it's not sold commercially, it's sold commercially, you do it results.
Right. Yeah. So just the fact that you've been allowed onto someone's farm is typically means that in some way that they've given you, you know, if it went to a court of law, they would take that into account. But there's also big differences between editorial use and commercial use. So if you are using it editorially as part of a story, which is what you would be doing, that's usually not too much of an issue, but certainly you want it covered. The area to be really careful is if someone was to take a bit of footage that you shot as part of an editorial process and said, oh, I've got a friend who's got a company and they're looking for something as a video to promote their business, and you sold part of that footage or gave them part of that footage to use in a commercial video, then you're really opening yourself up for attack. So, because it's been sold for commercial gain. So, sorry, I haven't explained that well. If you took footage of someone in their Range Rover as part of a story, and then you allowed Range Rover to use that as part of a promotional video for Range Rover, then you're really opening up a can of worms. So
that's a different conversation to have with that person, the subject, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, cool. Now there's a question from Jackie. Recently I was posting to Facebook, it said it preferred videos over 2 minutes, question mark.
Yeah, it changes every time you look at it, Jackie. It's enough to drive you loopy. And it depends where you're using them. Was it a paid advertisement? The algorithm changes all the time. Sometimes they'll say things are too long, sometimes they'll say they're too short. We post things and then they say, oh, it's been blacklisted because it's got too much text on it. Next day it's running. You know, it's really hard to know.
Right.
So I can't give you a definitive on that one. But certainly from a usability perspective, and if we look at the results we get, you can see how long people view things on, you know, when you're running paid campaigns, you can see how much the video people have watched. Often they stop after about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I asked, and it's brilliant to have your experienced view on that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, thanks. Now Fiona has asked, is there scope for writers to get involved with virtual reality, i.e. taking people on an experience on site, such as a farm?
Oh, what a cool idea. Yeah, totally. So are you thinking a little bit like, what is it called? Is that the kind of thing?
Yeah, the headset.
Oh, with a headset. So literally.
What I was meaning is just when people with a headset or perhaps on online is be taken somewhere as if they were there and someone talking them through or having commentary at you know, taking them on that experience like a farm or a production site.
Well, I've certainly seen that done. Is your question to us about how you go about videoing that? Or...
well, yeah, or just your thoughts on how writers can get and maybe be involved with that in terms of collecting the footage, or I guess from that commentary side, do you think there's scope for them to be involved?
Yeah, look, you've caught me a little bit on the hop there, but it's certainly something I think it's worth looking at. I've been really interested in, as I say, some of the things that have been done as Airbnb experiences with that whole, it's a whole new creation really around lockdown. I don't know if have you seen those? Are you familiar with them?
No, I haven't seen them, no.
So basically what happens, and this is, it might be something for you to look at as well and give you some ideas, is you can go to Airbnb Experience and basically sign up for a virtual tour of an animal farm, or to learn to juggle, or to attend a cooking class. And I was intrigued by it because I imagine it's how people are, if you're in lockdown, it's how you keep your kids entertained. Say, all right, well, you know, we're going to Guatemala to an animal farm this afternoon, and you pay your $10 online or whatever, and you become part of a forum just like we have here, except presumably the person running it is walking around the farm saying, here's Susie the alpaca. So yeah, it'd be worth having a look at it and seeing if you can spot any opportunities, but it's certainly something that is on the increase. I looked at it more as a way of, you know, the reason it was of interest to me was I looked at it and looked at the little videos that they were using to promote their tours and thought, now that's something they could be doing on Chilli Bites. They could be using the Chilli Bite app to create the video that they run as their advertisement for what becomes then a virtual tour.
Yeah, it's interesting, you're right. There's been a bit of a proliferation of places you can go as a tourist, you know, come to the Amalfi Coast and see it all by virtual reality. So it's a very interesting space. Now,
Yeah.
Regina's asked, what about large public gatherings or public venues? If you're just panning across many people, how do you get permission, or do you just not use these sort of shots? What's your feeling there? Okay.
Again, if you're in a public space and you're using them for editorial purposes, my understanding is you're fine.
Right.
If you were using it in a promotional campaign of some sort, you might run into hot water, and you'd probably want to consult with it. I mean, I can ask some of these questions because we have trademark lawyers that we work with, and perhaps come back to you on it. But
It includes Dockland and Maryland.
oh, hang on, Gary's just giving me some input.
It's got Dockland in it.
Yeah.
Or Maryland isn't it?
Right. So same thing, can be aware that in terms of getting licenses, you need to be looking at model rights and property rights. So same thing, if you are filming outside a well-known property or there's signage in the background, and Gary's saying too, on dock land or Maori land, you can run into issues. But again, I think as journos, you'd be fine if you're doing it in a journalistic style and using it for news. If I was to rock up there with a video crew tomorrow and take footage to use in a video for a client, different story.
Right. Oh, that's great. Now, Kay, I was going to ask, when if we were to use your Chilli Bite service, is there a way of communicating which bits of the footage we thought were the most relevant to the story, for example?
Yeah, totally. So there's a section for comments. So if there's anything particular you want to highlight, when you complete it, there's a section for, you can choose the style of editing. Do you want high energy or calm or whatever? There's, so you can make notes there, and you can make any kind of visual notes to the editing team. If you have a specific order that you want something to run in, because you just know that's how you want it, perhaps the best thing to do is just to change the order, rename your files and upload them with them named. So it's, file 2, file 3, and then we'll run them in the right order for you. Otherwise, what we do is we will totally leave it to the editor's discretion, because they've got the eye for it. And so same thing, you may even find that there are bits of footage we don't even use if we feel that the videos come together better without it. So yeah, and that's why we use real editors. It sounds terrible, but there's a lot of online services now that use AI, and there are some, and sometimes well, and others it doesn't. But we prefer the idea that an editor still brings that little bit of creative magic to something that an AI-based system won't necessarily. But yeah, if you've got a distinctive plan, a definite plan, or you really want to open with this, or you really want to close with that, just tell us.
Okay, thank you.
And
now,
Gary and I are on the end of the phone. That's the advantage here in New Zealand, as opposed to when we're dealing with people on the other side of the world. Pick up the phone and call us.
Yeah, cool. Now, Jackie's asked, what's your thoughts on using a microphone for a smartphone?
There's some good ones available, and it does make a difference.
Right.
Yeah. And have I answered that correctly, Gaz? Gaz is our techno guy. Advantages on using a microphone on a smartphone.
People laugh more from road.
So there's these kinds of things that you can get, and they,
Plugs into your smartphone.
yeah, plugs into your smartphone does make a difference, totally.
Right. So even for doing your own sort of voiceover little audio, you should use a microphone.
If you're just doing your own little audio at home and you're somewhere or in the office and it's quiet, just holding your phone's fine. But if you, sorry, jump in here, Gaz. Come. So this is Gary. He's one of our videographers. He's a little techo guy.
When it comes to microphones plugging into mobile phones, most mobile phones won't recognize an exterior connection. So you have to download an app. There's a lot of apps. There's a fantastic app which costs about $25, which gives you all sorts of manual things like focus control and ISO and zoom and all sorts of bits and pieces that you'd have on a DSLR camera. It allows you to manually change that yourself. And on that app, it allows external microphones to be introduced into a mobile phone. So the one that I use is, I don't often use my mobile phone for this sort of thing because we use other cameras, but there is an app, it's an exceptionally good app, and that'll allow you to plug in any microphone, whether it's a shotgun mic or a lavalier mic or a multi-directional mic. And the app is called Filmic Pro, F-I-L-M-I-C Pro, Filmic Pro. And that works on any phone, whether it's Android or whether it's iOS based, but that allows an input of any external microphone into your mobile phone. As I say, most mobile phones, that only will use their internal microphone unless you're taking video through an app. But the nice thing about the app, it does give you a whole bunch of extra parameters to work with shadows and light, your exposure, your distance focusing, how much background you want out of focus. It gives you all those parameters that you don't get on your normal, with your normal camera on your phone.
Right, that sounds like it could be good content for webinar number 2.
Yeah,
How to improve.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, what I talked to you today was I took the simplest approach that I could possibly think of to create an effective little promo video that anyone could do. But there are so many other techniques you can use if you are interested in it and you've got any kind of knowledge, using B-rolls as voiceovers and interviews to cameras. And it doesn't actually have to be hard. I mean, the video that I mentioned, Cheryl Hatana had made some videos earlier. You know, she did a great job and she just did them all herself, running and edited herself on iMovie. If we'd had time in the seminar, I would have perhaps shown one of her videos, because what it does is it gives you an opportunity to see what she'd done right, but the little things that could enhance it. But yeah, by all means, if you've got more knowledge and want to use some of those other techniques, by all means do. I was just trying to find a really easy, workable solution rather than confusing you. Because as you can see, the minute you ask Gary, the scope's the slide.
Oh no, I think that was great. I think you pitched it really well, because some of us are beginners, and others of us who have done a little bit, it's been great to pick up some extra tips and tricks. So thank you very much, Kay. That was great. And I think, you know, if we get some good interest from people, well, we might come back to you and get you to explore some of those other techniques and you know, maybe take it from 101 to 201, and that would be really good. So thank you very much for your time. Everyone, we've had some great feedback saying that was perfectly pitched and it's been very useful and a great overview. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Well, glad to be of help, and thanks for having me. And yeah, we'd love to see some videos come through on Chili Bites and see what you're doing. So if you do go ahead and do it, just drop us a line, because we'd love to actually connect, perhaps by email, and have a chat as to how you found the process and stuff as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right. Cheers.